Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sarah Spinks.
Thanks for joining us today on our Safeguarding Conversation podcast. Today we're discussing one of the biggest shake-ups in online child protection that we've seen in years here in the UK, Ofcom's new online safety codes. And we're asking, are they the turning point that we've all been waiting for, or are they just another set of promises that platforms will wriggle out of?
Well, the timing is key here, because it follows a pretty damning case study from our Five Rights Foundation, and they posed a question that really hits home. What does a teenager actually see on Instagram?
Yeah, and spoil, it really wasn't pretty, was it?
No.
Even with Meta's so-called teen accounts, children are still being exposed to deeply inappropriate content, sexualised imagery, adult user recommendations, hate speech, and idealised beauty content that's been linked to mental health issues.
So I think let's start with what these teen accounts were meant to do. So rolled out by Meta in September 2024, they were marketed as a new safeguard for under 18s. Tighter content filters, privacy-focused settings, and reduce exposure to harmful accounts. In theory, a step forward.
Yeah, but the Five Rights study just tore that claim apart, didn't it? Researchers, it created fake teen profiles with false birthdays, something any child could do, and they were instantly shown adult-themed content and recommendations, not buried in the platform, but pushed to them by the algorithm.
And that's the key. The protections look good on paper, but in practice, they're easily bypassed and poorly enforced. And it's performative safety.
Exactly. Now, Meta hit back by highlighting that 94% of surveyed parents found the teen account features helpful. But we have to ask, are those parents seeing the full picture?
That's right. There's a really big difference between what a platform tells a parent and what a child actually experiences. So Baroness Biban Kidron from Five Rights didn't mince her words, and she called it deeply sexualized and said outright, this is not a teen environment.
And that commercial element is key too, isn't it? Children are being shown ads and content that is designed to manipulate insecurities, from body image to peer pressure, without their full understanding or their consent.
Yeah, so against that backdrop, we've now got Ofcom's new children's safety codes, legally enforceable from July the 25th, 2025. And these are the first child-specific requirements under the Online Safety Act.
So the scope's huge, isn't it? Over 40 mandatory actions that platforms must implement to keep children safe. And, a few sort of standouts include age-appropriate algorithm design that's designed to prevent, exposure to harmful content, robust age verification using more than just self-declaration, rapid response systems for removing illegal or dangerous material, easy to understand child-friendly terms of service, although I'm not convinced anybody ever reads them. Options to block group chat invitations, which, as we know, can be a gateway for online abuse. And critically, a named individual who's held personally accountable for children's safety on each and every platform.
And if the platforms fall short, well, apparently they'll now face fines of up to £80 million or 10% of their global turnover. So for something like companies like Meta, for example, that could mean billions of pounds.
Well, Dame Melanie Dawes, Ofcom's chief executive, called the codes a game changer. And to be fair, it is the first time we're seeing regulators with this level of authority and expectation when it comes to child safety online.
But still, there is scepticism. Ian Russell, who tragically lost his daughter Molly after she was exposed to harmful content, he called the codes lacking ambition, and he argued they still don't go far enough to put children's welfare ahead of corporate profits.
Yeah, absolutely. And Holly Dance, mother of Archie Battersby, echoed that sentiment. She called it a small step forward and asked the hard question, why are we still tiptoeing around tech platforms when children's lives are at risk?
So I suppose, what does all this mean for safeguarding professionals, DSLs, teachers, school leaders and others working directly with children?
Well, first, we need to stop assuming age verification works, because it doesn't. Children can and will bypass it. So education is essential, not just for the children, but for parents too. And we need honest conversations about the reality of what young people might see online.
Absolutely. And secondly, use the new codes as a framework to audit your school or organisation's digital safeguarding. Are you actively talking about social media in PSHE? Are children taught how to report harmful content? Is your staff trained in spotting the warning signs of online abuse?
And third, don't be afraid to challenge platforms. Schools, safeguarding charities, youth workers, we're on the front lines and our voices matter. Regulators are watching and collective pressure can drive actual change.
I think also one more thing, just look beyond policies. Real protection comes from relationships. Build, we talk about relationships a lot on our podcast. Build trust with the children you support. Let them know they can talk to you if something online doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I agree, Sarah. So, Sarah, turning point. Is it a turning point or a missed opportunity? What do you think?
Well, it's definitely a step forward, but it's not the destination. I think that's, the codes give us legal tools, but, we still need vigilance, enforcement and transparency. Children, they do deserve digital spaces that are not just less dangerous, but actively safe and nurturing.
I would agree with that. And I think even with the powers that the Ofcom will have, actually, the reality, if there's a breach, I just have this thing in my head where I'm thinking, how easy is it going to be to take that proportion of Meta's turnover? I think they'll be tied up in lawyers and courts for a long
years
time.
And years. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, how doable is it? It all sounds very positive, but I think the reality is it's going to be actually quite hard to implement this. I mean, the landscape's changed, but if I'm being honest, how I feel about it, our job, the job of educators, it stays the same. Keep children safe, stay informed, and hold those in power accountable.
Yeah, and I think also, if you haven't already, I would highly recommend that people read the full 5 Rights Foundation report. What does a teen actually see on Instagram? It's a really interesting read. And I think we'll put the link in our notes anyway, Sam.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get that link actually put up onto the website page for this podcast. It is actually, it's well worth a read. So I hope you found today's episode helpful. Please, share it with a colleague. Let's get talking about this. Leave us a review and stay connected. This conversation is far from over. So let us know what you think. But until next time, please stay safe, stay critical, and keep protecting what matters most.